Let's answer a Gcse past paper question. This is taken from the edexcel exam board, and the question reads, this question is on metals and their extraction techniques. So a student carried out an investigation to determine the order of reactivity of four metals, W, X, Y, and Z. A piece of metal W was added to a test tube containing excess dilute HCl, and this was repeated with the other three metals, X, Y, and Z, and in each case the size of each piece of metal was the same. Again, this is our control variable for the experiment. The student recorded observations on each of the reactions for 3 minutes, and the observations are found in the table below. So W, bubbles formed quickly in some metal remaining after 3 minutes. A few bubbles were seen to form, and the metal looked unchanged after 3 minutes. Bubbles formed quickly after 3 minutes. All the metal had reacted, and bubbles formed very quickly with no metal remaining after 3 minutes. Okay, so the question is asking, use the information in figure 8. So figure 8, to place the metals in order of reactivity from the least reactive to the most reactive. So by now you probably guessed that the more reactive it is, it's going to be reacting very quickly with hardly anything remaining at the end. So let's see if we can decipher that using this table. So I already know that very quickly, so Z is probably the most reactive. We can reorder these after reading through them. Then probably Y, because it says bubbles formed quickly. So Y is less reactive than Z, but still reactive. For X, it says only a few bubbles formed, showing that it was less reactive than the previous two. So X can go here for now. And then for W, it says bubbles formed quickly. So I know W is more reactive than X. So we're just going to swap this around, and we're going to put X here and W here. Let's see what's more reactive from W and Y. I'm going to stick with our order because Y, for the observation of Y, it says after 3 minutes all the metal had reacted, whereas with W, after 3 minutes some of the metal was still remaining, therefore W is less reactive than Y. Next part of the question reads, the experiment was repeated using excess of dilute sulfuric acid in place of hydrochloric acid. So metal plus sulfuric acid will give you metal sulfate, which is a salt, and your hydrogen bubbled off. When metal Y reacts with dilute sulfuric acid, bubbles form quickly at first, and then the reaction stops. Most of the solid remains. Explain why the reaction between metal Y and excess of dilute sulfuric acid stopped even though there was solid Y left. This could be due to the fact that you have your metal and now it's reacting with sulfuric acid and forming your product metal sulfate. So in this case, whatever your metal is. And let's say that the product metal sulfate is probably insoluble and it ends up coating your metal. So more acid can no longer get into the main core of the metal and react with it because of the insoluble metal sulfate formed around the metal. The metal sulfate formed must be insoluble, therefore it must form a barrier by coating the metal, therefore preventing further reaction from occurring with the acid.